everybody, and welcome again to day 10 of 30 Days in Recovery. Glad to be back. My name is Travis the Featherhawk Snyder. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is I haven't had a mind or mood-altering chemical for over 5 years. And as a direct result of those choices, many things have improved, and with a lot of love and support with my family, my friends, and my communities, and of course with that highest source of love I call God, I've been able to live a life with purpose and with awareness and mindfulness and the understanding of finding ways to contribute to the greater good and to create peace and harmony in the world. And that is what brought me to create this 30 Days of Recovery. For those that are just tuning in, 30 Days of Recovery is just a simple broadcast. I'm recording a video every day of the month of August talking about a topic that has to do with recovery and how it relates to my personal story of addiction and recovery, with the hopes of reaching people in the community of Schuylkill County and beyond. As a matter of fact, really just want to inspire anybody that comes across this video with just by sharing some of my lived experience simply and humbly. Today is day 10 of 30 Days of Recovery, and today I'm going to talk about recovery support groups. This is always an important thing, finding ways to learning and growing and finding ways to recover successfully. Having recovery support groups is a huge factor. I personally, many times in my addiction, I went to a treatment center and a couple times before I did finally, get arrested and finally had that moment where I really chose that I wanted to live a life of recovery. And as I was in my addiction, and I went to White Deer Run, and it was a great treatment program, and I learned a whole lot at that program. And I learned about recovery support groups, and that was the first time that I was introduced to the 12-step model. And I didn't quite understand it. A lot of new words were brought in, a lot of new things that I didn't understand. And I just, I know at that time in 2000, I believe it was 2008, I didn't fully surrender to the idea of recovery because I really didn't even understand. I didn't even understand addiction. I didn't understand addiction as a disease, and I didn't understand what recovery was. And at that point in my life, I wasn't willing to surrender enough to want to truly learn it and get it. I just wanted to be clean. I wanted to not feel like crap, but I didn't understand what it took to recover. And so I quickly, I didn't attend meetings. I know in there I had a lot of reservations. I was the stubborn guy that was like, well, I can still smoke marijuana, I can still drink, but I didn't really fully embrace the idea that was never really about what I was using. It was about the why. It was about the behavior, and it was about how that behavior and how taking on that same idea of doing what I want and how that can eventually lead back into my drug of choice, which became heroin. And so I didn't embrace the recovery support groups at that time. It wasn't until I came out of jail and went to treatment at Common Ground in Harrisburg that I really started to, because I completely surrendered at that time, and I became more open to what all these words and ideas and the idea of recovery was. And so when we were having our meetings in treatment, I was really listening to what people were saying, and I was definitely just very interested in what recovery had to offer. And I'll never forget when I left treatment, the one guy said, I don't care what you do when you leave here. Hop, jump, skip, run, walk, drive a car, just get to a meeting. And I took that advice because the conviction in his voice, this guy had been through a whole lot. And he was back in treatment, and so even though he was there, he knows that being around people in recovery was important. So I did that. I don't even think I set foot in my house, and I went to a meeting, and I got myself around people. And I know that, like, being young and new in recovery, a lot of times we're very boisterous and loud, and I was just excited, enthusiastic, and I'm very excited about my recovery, and I was just so very grateful at that moment. And when I got into the rooms, I would always share. I knew that it was weird because I just felt so good, and so I just wanted to share about all the good things and and stuff like that. But I met some really good people that I'm friends with still today. And I learned very quickly, what recovery support groups offer, regardless of what it is. If it's a 12-step group, if it's a Christian-based group, if it's something like Skook Recovers where we're just, we have different events. So no matter what it is, it's an opportunity to be around people that are really striving for the same thing. I'm not saying all people that are in the groups, in the rooms are equally on the same path and the same have the same idea of recovery, but nonetheless, some people are just fighting for that next day. Some people got many years, and and whatever works for one person may not work for another person. But for me, being around people that were in recovery was important. So recovery support groups, anytime I get into a rehab or treatment center or around people that are in treatment, going to treatment, anything like that, one thing I like to explain is that it's a discovery process. Recovery is really truly discovering who we are from a more spiritual place. And so, like, a lot of the groups have spiritual principles, and that's what it's really about, is really turning our will over to a greater source of love and drawing our strength from something more positive than what we used to draw our strength from, which was more not that we were drawing strength, but we were just weak. We were weakened in our state of addiction, and when we were out there suffering from substance use disorders. And when I share with people that are going to treatment, I'm like, it's a discovery process, and a lot of times it's very uncomfortable, and we're very afraid. And I was very afraid the first time I went to treatment. But what I learned was, like, being around people that suffered as I did, and then in those moments, it was like here and being in that environment was like, okay, we're all kind of putting out our stuff. We've all been through a lot of crap. We've all been through destructive lives, some worse than others. But the idea of really, like, getting our truth out there and getting honest and opening up, it's kind of like we're all putting all this information out in front of us so we can actually see it. Because a lot of times we internalize the things that really destroy us, are the things that we are internalizing and keeping inside of ourselves. And I know it's difficult. Some of the stuff is hard to put out in front of complete strangers, and I wouldn't expect anybody, to go in there and just put it all out there. But being able to actually free ourselves of some of the things that are really plaguing us inside and that are keeping us in a really negative state, it can be healthy. And it's not only that, if we can take it from outside of us and put it out in front of us, and I just say that like figuratively, take the stuff, put it out, we can actually start to sort through it. And if, depending on the recovery group and the type of people you're around, they can also look at these things. And you know what I mean? And everybody can learn from this stuff. And we can just sort through it and look at it. We can start to, I always like put all the pieces out there. These are the pieces that we need to remove. These are the pieces that I need help with, so we look to our friends in the groups. You know what I mean? And these are the, and then when we're done sorting through that out, put out some more pieces of the idea of solutions. When I can actually look and see where I'm struggling and I can get honest and put my things out there. What are some of the things that I'm learning or I need to learn from other people in order to bring solutions to the table? Because truthfully, that's an important thing, and it doesn't have to always be in front of a group of people. It can be with an individual. Having a recovery support group doesn't always mean a 12-step group. It could be your family members. It could be a group of friends. It could be a coworker. But to me, it's finding somebody that really understands it. It could be a spiritual leader, a pastor, a member of a church, a church group. It's not always easy finding those people who are willing to, listen and truly understand and, and be able to share with you. But nonetheless, if we can get some of this stuff out there and maybe just learn a little bit of knowledge from somebody who's already experienced and been through it and found proactive ways to recover, that's going to really help you learn and grow. For me, anytime I get in front of people in recovery, I just love listening. I love hearing what they have to say about it, regardless if it doesn't sit right with the way I recover. it's still people, these are people's lives, and there's just a lot of information that's being shared, and it's everywhere. It's on the internet, it's in the rooms, it's like I shared with, like, in earlier topics, the knowledge of life is just, there's so many people putting so much information out there. It's just a matter of whether or not we want to get around that. So support groups, recovery support groups is something that, I feel like I'm in it for the rest of my life. I want to be a support person. I want to go be around people in recovery. I want to inspire people to be a part of recovery support groups, no matter what it is. Recovery house, 12 steps, whatever you want to come up with, any kind of thing that can support recovery and people can come together and share knowledge and wisdom is always going to be a good thing. And it's going to be an opportunity to discover more about yourself by finding the time and when it's right to be able to get all that stuff out of you, remove it. And if you can't do it in front of people, just let it go to your idea of God. Like, if there's some greater source of love that I'm supposed to turn my will over to, that's gonna, give me the strength to do this thing, then that's what I'm gonna turn it over to. I don't care if you have to look up in the sky, look out into the, into nature, and just let it out. So, if you're somebody that's new to recovery, finding those recovery support groups doesn't always mean 12-step groups. It doesn't always mean faith-based groups. It means just finding positive people in your life. And if you can't find them, keep searching, because they're out there, and allowing them, and then being able to, be honest with yourself and with other people. And over time, you'll start to form a group of people. And even if it's just a small group of friends, at least you have a recovery support group. So that's it for day 10 of 30 days of recovery. I encourage anyone out there new in recovery to get around recovery support groups, get around 12-step groups, AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, get around whatever it is. Really find yourself in front of people that are recovering, and just keep an open mind, and just know not everybody works their recovery a little bit different. A lot of different people use a similar model, but ultimately each individual is a different person and is going to work it differently. But be pro recovery, be pro positivity, be spiritual, be loving, get out there and be around positive people. And I'm Travis Snyder for 30 Days of Recovery, and this will end our recording for day 10, and we'll see you again tomorrow with day 11. Have a great day, everyone. Peace.